Okay,
I'm
hi.
good.
Today we're here with Terence Jiam. He's an NLP trainer and a timeline therapy and hypnosis trainer and coach. He's been in the business for quite a long time, working with businesses, companies, helping them with their business acceleration programs, and providing one of the NLP certification trainings, one of the best ones in the ASEAN region, in fact. During his time, he's been passionate about working with business owners and entrepreneurs and has helped to double a lot of people's sales, which is no small thing in this world in particular at the moment. And so I'm very curious to know about all of that. And you're passionate about it, which is great. And you like to train people in the industries. In fact, you know, your work is popular and you've been, you know, across the Malaysia, Singapore, you know, Australia, Germany. I mean, you're around the place, so you're doing something right. What would love to know, Terence? I'm welcome to my little podcast, by the way. As you know, I'm here about a deep dive into our field, which I'm passionate about as well, and with kind of specific reference towards our own consciousness and our own development and global awareness and things like that as well on the bigger picture. But to begin with, you know, tell me a little bit about yourself and what was your journey towards this field? What turned you onto it?
Well, first and foremost, thank you for having me, Mark. Yeah, it's really, really a pleasure to be here and share some of my thoughts. Wow, what got me into this? I think that the thought of becoming a better version of me took place when I was still a teenager. Yeah. So at that time, you're looking at somebody that is very introverted, very insecure, for whatever the reasons is. That's all fine, it's good. We have to start somewhere anyway. But I remember there was one of those moments when you actually take some time to think, where is it? Where am I? And where do I want to be? And it's never a grand plan. It's never like, you know, I'm gonna be this, you know, billionaire that first tourist to the moon or whatever it is. No, it's not that kind of grand plan. I think it was just in my own little world that I think I was what, 16, 17 years old or something like that, and you'll be thinking like, you know, where do I guess that was because a lot of my classmates and my school friends and cousins were starting on their journey in terms of developing their career path and things like that, and I was just stuck not knowing what to do. Yeah. And so it got me thinking about it. And so the question is, how do you know when you don't know? Yeah. So that's kind of hard. So for me, the only way I can look at is that, well, the only thing I have in front of me is me. So I think that sort of started to say, so I made a decision that, you know, I'm going to be a better version of me. I mean, obviously there was lots of issues and all, and you're looking in comparison who is better and sort of like trying to see whether you match up and things like that. But I think if you ask me that question is, wow, nobody had really asked that kind of question. And so that journey of becoming a little bit better. And so what was the first thing? Well, being an introvert, you don't have a lot of friends. Let's put it this way. So I started with that part that says, so how do you get to know somebody, or how do you have one extra friend? So the good thing I had was that my dad has a few books that was all self-help books. And so I decided I'm just going to take it something and I'm just going to start reading it. And I think that was the journey. I think that's started off the journey. And see, if I look back on hindsight now, I think that is where it began. The becoming a better person was my decision at the time. And so I think that sort of guided me as to the things that I did, I wasn't, again, it's just growing from one stage to another stage to another stage. And so I then got into some sales training, and I realized that because I think the industry where you do a lot of sales is where there is a lot of personal development involved. And I really see a bit of the changes in me now. So I'm not spectacular in any sense. I do see some changes in me, which I personally feel connected and I liked. And it got me thinking about the kind of changes that I have experienced and the people around me that may not necessarily have the same thing. And so that has always been in the forefront of my thinking. So, and that led me to coming out to do training after working for a while. And in my training journey, I came to a point where I didn't want to be doing training just because someone said that, hey, Terence, you could train, right? Here's the syllabus. Why don't you go and train? There's nothing wrong with that. If you're comfortable doing that, that's completely fine. For me, I just didn't feel very connected because some of the training I really have not enough experience in, and yet I had to facilitate the whole experience. I find that to be a little bit of an issue of a misalignment. And when that became a little bit too often, too frequent, I made up my mind that, I'm gonna just stick to one field. And so the field that I chose was NLP, because in the midst of doing training, you were exposed to a little bit of the understanding of NLP, which was not a lot. I mean, my first ever exposure to NLP was through a book. And then I attended the NLP practitioner training. And I still remember the trainer had to interview me. I don't know whether that's a process everybody goes through, but the trainer asked me a few questions. Do I know anything about NLP? I said, no, I don't. Do you know how it originated? I don't. Do you know what you can do with this? I said, don't. I just want to, I heard that it makes you a better person. And so the trainer actually said this. He says, you don't have a lot of basic knowledge or some inclination of NLP. Your classmates are all very well read. So you may not be very suitable for the class. So I say, cool. Okay. Well, I said this before I left. I was a little half disappointed. I said this, well, I have the money to pay though. And if that helps, why not? I have the money. I'm ready to make the payment, but respect. And I say, okay, you make the call. Yeah. 2 weeks later, I got a call. It says that the only advantage we see in you is that you're like a blank piece of paper, and so you don't come with any preconceived notion. So we could do something by, when you learn this, you learn it in a purer form. So I went. So I got myself certified. I got really excited about that whole growth and all. And so this is in the midst of me training other things as well. And so it came to the point where I made the decision, no, I'm just going to focus on this. And that's where the journey led me to where I am today. And I would not have made, if I could go back and turn back time and go back to that time, I will still make the same decision as sticking to this. So you can say there is something very close to my heart.
Yeah, totally, absolutely. And I like the way that you said that once you'd made a decision that this was what you were going to do, you were going to be, concentrate on becoming a better person. You said that itself guided you towards all of these things afterwards. So there's already an innate guidance procedure or something is inside you moving you towards, and you have a reference point from which you're able to and you obviously trust in that process quite a lot. What did NLP and hypnosis and timeline therapy, what did the field bring to that process for you that you didn't have before?
Oh, a lot. A lot, Mark. Wow, a lot. The thing is that when I first encountered NLP, and you talk about, I mean, we know that we teach in one of the things, the topics that we talk about is having sensory acuity and being, to me, that's a very big take back, because I know it's not a very big chapter, it's not a very big thing with a lot of details and stuff like that, but the significance of it was a lot to me. Just think about it. Sensory acuity, we talk about being sensitive to have a heightened awareness of everything that through your five senses, that you're able to. To me, yes, initially when you all started, sensory acuity is about noticing physiological shift, noticing all the slight movement changes and all those things, everything that encompasses that is just being more aware. But the significance is beyond just physiological shift. To me, I mean, that sort of like gave, see, if I have no encounter with that, then if I had no encounter with that, you can almost say that there is one side of my awareness is never awakened, if that makes sense. And then, because from there is where you start thinking about it. Yeah, I am being aware that somebody moved their hands, or somebody look at their watch, or somebody, speaking in this manner, or whatever it is. Yes, I have that awareness. But then there is always that question starts to come in, and start thinking, am I even aware that I'm looking at my watch? Am I even aware that I'm moving my hands? Right now I'm talking to you, am I even aware of this? Yeah, and all those analogical markings. But more than that, the question is that, so to me it's really big, because am I even aware of what I'm thinking about as I'm thinking about it? Because it's almost like you're at a zone where we say like you're almost in the entering the void or something like that. It's that moment of, I don't know, yeah, suspension or something, that kind of thing. So is it big? Of course it's big, man. So NLP has opened up a whole different way of looking at how we process information, or how I process information. So I'm looking more at myself and what's going on. Which one is easier to fix, someone else or yourself? Depending on which school of thoughts you have. I tend to think that it's easier to fix me, because I have me. Yeah, 24/7 I have me. I have access to all these things. So that kind of awareness is very different. And so when I teach it in my NLP class, yes, we teach them all the things according to the syllabus that was set out, and according to the international certification standards and all those. Yes, absolutely, giving them that. I now will add on and say that now that you have learned all this, what is the significance for you? Because look, you do know that there are some things are techniques. It is techniques, yeah. So I now tend to have my students where I get them to contemplate about some other, looking at it from a very different angle, contemplating things like, so I ask day one itself, I says, do you know what's the secret of becoming really good with NLP? I mean, for everything that they mention and what they come here for, I say, but do you know what's the secret of being really good with NLP? And so you have people will look at it and pause as if that they're waiting for some answer somewhere, glow of light and the angels sang or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, and it's never the case. Okay, for me, it's never the case. It's just that this is but this is my thought. Yeah, this is my thought. I said, for me to be really, if you want to be really good with NLP, the ability to recognize a person's internal representation, that's the key. Why? Because if you can recognize the person's internal representation, everything else you learn in NLP is switched to internal representation for the betterment of the person, because everything else is techniques. So that's how I look at it. Yeah.
So just for the benefit of people who may not know what internal representation is, just in a a few sentences, could you just explain what that actually is?
Oh, okay. Internal representation is how you represent something internally. Yeah. So I like to say that it's just a picture that is in your mind. Yeah. So if I go to the seaside and I watch a sunset, I mean, externally, that's the sunset. When I come back and I tell someone else about the sunset, I would have a certain picture in my mind as I describe the sunset, but it's only true to me. Yeah. Because I may be focusing on just the glow of the light or something like that, but it's not the. So that's what we meant by an internal representation. So how I represent something internally. So that's what it is. So the picture that is in my mind is just like if I tell you that my business goal is to do $100 million, then the picture I have in my mind is the $100 million of business that I want to do. So that's what we say is that's the internal representation. I mean, simplistically, that's what we explain. I mean, obviously we explain a little bit more in our class. So I tend to have these kind of thoughts or questions that ask them. So if you really can recognize that, then don't you think that every technique is to help your client to switch that so that they become more resourceful? Yeah. So that for hypnosis timeline therapy, amazing, Mark. You know the kind of results that we got when the negative emotion is removed. Bearing in mind that some of these negative emotions that we've been carrying for all our lives, I mean, as long as you have lived, you might be carrying it that long. Yeah. So and all those being removed, the whole removing of limitations that I have self-imposed upon myself, that I put it there, whether knowingly or unknowingly, the whole removal of that allows for so much of freedom to be able to express myself or to do things. That was really, really big. It was also the very reason why my business grows, and it was also the very reason why my clients' business grew. It was that it was big. It's really big. I mean, it's a very fast technique, but the significance is really huge. So what have that done for me? That have done a lot. All four. You're talking about NLP, you're talking about hypnosis, you're talking about timeline therapy, you're talking about coaching. All that being put together has a huge significance in terms of how I see life, how I look at my things, and how I progress. Yeah. So it's big, obviously.
Yeah. Absolutely. And we could spend the rest of this podcast talking about the advantages that awareness, sensory acuity, and being able to help someone to alter their internal representation could become advantageous in terms of business. Because obviously, if on a very simple level, if you're aware of the communication on a level that the other person is simply not aware of, then you can become aware of what makes them tick, what makes them motivated towards a sale, what makes them commit towards things. And we could talk about it technically from that side of the field. And this is what a lot of people do. They talk about what you can do with it, where you can take it to, and so on. But one of the things that really intrigues me and it's coming out in what you're saying so far. Is you said you turn it on yourself. You know, where are you coming from in all of this? Yeah, you can do all of these things, but where are you coming from in doing all of this? And how, if you turn the skills on yourself, obviously, if you can help other people, you can help yourself. If you can be aware of other people, you can be aware of yourself. And for me, passionately, my life has been about personal development. It's been about myself, and not in a selfish way, but I'm just so totally curious about this awareness thing, you know, and what it's like to be me, and how I encounter me, and how I can become aware of, as you said before, how do I get to the bit where I become aware of what I was not aware of? I mean, it's such a difficult thing, and it's
Yes.
in itself, it's, you know, so I'm curious, you know, behind all of this stuff that you do, you're a very successful business person. You help a lot of successful business people, and you do all of these things, and you're obviously quite, you know, passionate and content in yourself, and you know, dare I say, happy being. You know, not that it's all about being happy, but you know, if we spend too much time smiling, then you know that's our fault. But you know, you've been developing all this time. You've been doing all these things. You've learned skills which have enabled you to accelerate the process of becoming more you. Because as you said, you can let go of these negative emotions and limiting beliefs, and it's just, and so many people talk about that. It sounds, you know, it can sound complicated, but actually it's very, very simple, isn't it? It's like, what do I have to stop doing in order to be the person that I've decided I want to be, or that I can be? Because I already have an internal representation of what that is. In order to be even to have that desire, I already have something inside me to compare. Is this what I was looking for? So it's already, and I think that's one of the beautiful things for me about working with people, is that I know that they already have it. I just have to help them to get to what I know, and I can see, and I can be aware of in them at the moment. And through all of that, as you say, who do I change, me or them? Well, you know, I can be aware of my neurology. I can be aware of my consciousness. I can be aware of my choices, and so on. And I'm aware of how much I've grown and developed, even in, say, the last year or the last 5 years, if I care to think about that. And I have a projection of where it's going for me, which really excites me. I'm curious though about yourself. So where do you see, you have all these skills, you develop to where you are, you're a highly skilled person, and you must have a projection forwards, I guess. Of course, it's a mind read, but you know, for worse to mind read, then I imagine you have a concept of where this thing is taking you. So where do you think you'll be coming from in the next 4 or 5 years? How much more acceleration can you conceive of, given where you are at the moment?
Wow. So yes. So here's the question: how do you become aware of something that you are not aware of? That's the question I have to ask myself. Yeah. Because whatever I could project of who I am going to be will be subject to the awareness I have of myself right now. Yeah. So I think it's going to be a never-ending story. So I think that 5 years later, when Mark, if we do have this time together again, and you say, Terence, where you going to be 5 years from now? And then I'm going to say, well, I think it's going to be there, because I've reached a certain level of awareness where I am. Yeah. You know, the part that we talk about, the what is it called? You have that part that unconscious incompetence, and then conscious incompetence, and then conscious competence, and unconscious competence, right? Where we had the quadrants and all. Again, this is my thought. You know, so other people will have their own thought. I think the real power lies when you're consciously competent. I think, yeah. but only after you have arrived at the place called unconscious competence. And then you come back down to that part where you become more aware. Maybe I'm just interpreting it differently. So I think that's where the real issue is, the real power center is. Because if there is an awareness of where you want to be, then it's governed by intent, isn't it? Yeah. And again, it's like almost like a chicken and egg story. It's like, which one comes first? Yeah. So where would I be? Well, where I am now, if you ask me 10 years ago, if you tell me 10 years ago, we can jump onto a time capsule and we go back 10 years ago, and then we come out and then you talk to my old self and says that, you know, Terence, 10 years from now, you're going to be exactly here and this is what we're going to be doing. I would say you are on your mind. Somebody is smoking weed a bit too much. Yeah, so something like that. I might say that simply because I can't phantom that. My container can't fit that that thing that you talk about. I had no awareness. But so likewise, now when you ask me this question, where am I gonna be? And I don't know how these things work, but interesting enough, that was exactly what I was thinking about in the last 3 weeks, 5 years from now. And it's not about how to multiply the current success. It's a whole new plane altogether. It's about, for me, it's about how do I create more people, how do I create having more people being more successful in their own rights, in their own field, that is somehow connected to what I'm doing, and collectively, how do we change just the very small community that we're part of? How do we change that? How do we shift that? How do we do that? So now that's where I see. That's really where I see it. Do I have an absolute high resolution, ultra HD kind of details? No, I don't. So I do see it that way. But if 3 years ago, I won't be thinking about this. I had no awareness of this thing.
Yeah.
So that's how I find being conscious of who I am, being conscious of my ability, being conscious of my environment, my opportunities, and whatever challenges I have. That's what I think is a big thing. So I don't use the word consciousness as much as I should. I use the word recognizing. Yeah. So I ask my students and my clients, and when my clients are doing well, and I say congratulations to you, you know, and then she will say, it's other people. And I say, wait, just wait for a while. I say, you have to learn to recognize that you did take action and you got the results that you want. Can you recognize that? I'm congratulating on that. I'm not comparing anything. So do you recognize that? And then she says, okay, thank you. And I says, once you recognize that, do you know what you can do with it? There's so much more you could do with it. You could coach somebody with that. You could teach somebody with that. You could move yourself with that. But you need to have the recognition, being aware that, yes, this is me. Yes, this is what I have. And it's not the ego part of you that says, you look at me, how great I am. It's not that. It's really with all sincerity and honesty, looking at yourself and says, well, I do. If I know how to swim, I know how to swim. Mark, does that make sense?
Yeah.
I must recognize I know how to swim. It's not that I'm the best in the world because I know how to swim. No, it's just that I know I could swim. That's it. Yeah. But do you recognize that and have that awareness of yourself? my challenge now, my challenge in this journey is, how do I narrow that gap? Because when I started off of being more conscious of who I am and my thoughts and my action and all, it's always on hindsight. If something happened and then you either you hit a brick wall, and then you sort of like, okay, you wake up and you look back and says, well, I shouldn't have gone that way, something like that. It's always on hindsight. It's always reflective in nature. Yeah. And well, the good news is that the duration between what happened and the reflection is shorter and shorter and shorter. My challenge is, how do you then go into it just happened, okay, so now instead of took me 3 weeks to realize, now it probably takes me 10 minutes to realize, or half an hour to realize. My challenge is that I don't know whether it is possible or not. I do not know. I think it is. Can it happen real time or not?
What a challenge.
Yeah, can it happen real time? I'm about to take that. I have that thought. I'm about to act it out. And then at the same time, I am completely conscious of it.
Yeah.
I think that's where the real sense of power is, as in positive energy is. I think that if you can catch your thought, if you have the awareness of what is going on with you and around you, I think there is a tremendous amount of power to be able to direct you to your goals or wherever you want it to be. I think that's just tremendous.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with you.
That's what I do.
Yeah, no, that's a perfect answer, because I know that, you've said it about yourself, and I don't know whether I've said it in this video or not, but I know that I'm guiding myself towards the future that I'm designing, and I'm creating it, and I'm moving towards it, and I'm taking the relevant steps towards it, and I'm stopping doing the things that lead me away from it, which means that more and more I'm moving towards making better decisions consciously, and learning the difference between the times that I move away from those things and towards those things, so that over time I'm getting better at moving towards those things. Now, for me, the acceleration process of that has been the most satisfying, self-rewarding journey of a lifetime, and I really wouldn't do it any other way. And I'm getting better at it, like I do with any other skill. And here you are in a completely different part of the world, but you seem to be doing the same thing. And we know that there are NLP trainers all over the world. I mean, we know some of the most, prolific trainers around the world, and we know that they're doing the same thing as well. Where does this go? I mean, global awareness, can you foresee that possibility in the future? We're teaching other people to become aware after all. Can you see a world whereby people don't have to learn how to be like this?
Wow. That will be a really exciting world to be in, because we instead of individual consciousness, you go into collective consciousness. That is moving, that the trajectory that is moving in the same direction. I mean, talk about alignment. Yeah.
Well, we do it inside companies, so why not an entire planet?
Wow. Wow.
I just think if we all pull together,
I think it's very possible.
Yeah, I do.
I think it's very possible. What you said just now reminded me of something. The whole idea of bettering myself, making myself better, was not about how good I am, if I can put it about that. I mean, the idea was never about that. for many years that I held on to this thought that if I make myself better, then the people that is most directly connected to me, the one that is closest to me, they are the one that I obviously benefit, but they are the one that has that receive that overflowing of the benefit. So I see if I am a more skillful person, my skill benefits them. If I'm a calmer person, my calmness benefits them. I have. Can you imagine? I have friends that says that this is what it says, and she says this. She says that if you have a problem and you don't know what to do, go and talk to Terence. At the end, Terence may not give you an answer. At the end, Terence may not give you the answer. You may not have an answer, but there is something that will always happen. You walk away somehow knowing what to do, or you at least walk away feeling more, you're calmer, you're feeling more assured of yourself. I think that kind of feedback is precious. Yes. And it's true because they tell and that's what happens. And it was not just one person who said it. It's almost as if, so in that volunteer organization, they in Chinese, they almost say that I'm like a tranquilizer. I calm people down in that sense. So we have a term for it. And it says that if you need to calm down, you just sit next to him, talk to him for a while. You're talking other stuff, and then you calm down. So I think that making myself better will unconsciously be a positive thing towards the people around me. On that note, when you mentioned, we help company to create a culture that is positive, that is supportive for growth and positivity coming out and things like that. Why not do it as a nation, as a planet? Yeah. Well, now that you mentioned, we do have platform that this thing can go down. Yeah. And if we have people that works, because we know some of the very, very well established trainers and all that, they are in contact with this group of people, and we are also in contact with some of this, and somehow we're all connected. I think if we pool our resources together, I think we might just be able to do this.
I totally agree, and this is the thing, as you said, you can do what you have influence over, which is around you and your area, and that for me, that's really helpful. I know that I'm helping my immediate area in terms of the people that I train and work with, but I also, in the back of my mind, I know that elsewhere in the world, there are people like yourself who are also doing the same thing, and none of us can actually do the whole thing, and none of anyone can do it. It's a team effort, and we are all heading upwards together, and as far as I'm concerned, no one gets left behind. And so I guess you bring a lot to the table, and you bring a lot to your students. I'm just wondering, do you have any trainings? Do you have regular trainings during the year? Because obviously I'll be putting some links onto this so that people can get in touch with you. And obviously I highly recommend you, which must be obvious from the way we're talking to each other, that I value you as a person.
Yeah, we do have, and I have I'm finishing my practitioners training by day after tomorrow, and then we're gonna have our master practitioner training in June. We're gonna start that in June. And then we'll have the next practitioner somewhere in September as well. So we do about 4 to 6 trainings every year. apart from doing business coaching and breakthrough coaching as well. Yeah. So that's what we do. Yes. Yeah. So that's our little bit of effort to help change a bit of our community.
and
So
just
that's
kind of
what we do.
finally, what would you say to someone, you know, who's from your area, for example, that may be watching this, that may think to themselves, you know, should I get in touch with Terence and have a conversation with him? What would you say that would encourage someone? You obviously get benefit by being on the path yourself, as do I. And of course, we're from a position of having certain knowledge and awareness now, which we've had to work towards, which we now get the benefits from. What would you say to someone who hasn't yet got the benefits yet, who hasn't got onto their own path, the path that we know for them it's the best because it's their path? How could you encourage someone to come and take a training that's going to help them?
I will say this: if someone out there is actually considering, the first thing you need to consider is that, do you want to still be in the same situation as you are right now, for whatever the reason is? Yeah. Do you still want to be where you are? That's one. Secondly, is that would you allow yourself to see one possibility of your future being different? Would you allow yourself that? Would you even grant yourself that audience to see that there could be one possibility that things could be different? If the person's answer is yes, I can allow myself, and the answer is I do not want to stay where I am, then talk to any one of us, call us, because I was there before. Yeah. And personal development is never something you buy. Personal development is something that you are saying that I am worth investing in myself. That's never something you buy.
Such a beautiful answer, and it's, you know, it's right, nail right on the head, because that's, you know, I couldn't say it any better myself. That's exactly how I would say it if I was saying it, because that's it right from the beginning. is where I am right now where I want to be for the rest of it, you know? And if it's not, then what am I gonna do about it? And for me, these skills enable us to start to tap into those resources that we're not maybe aware of, but we can be guided by, and to start to move towards what we've got with the senses that we've got, and to tune them to become more and more sensitive, so that we respond quicker and quicker to what's happening around us, and become more, you know, in tune and in alignment with how it all is. You know, that's it in a nutshell for me, because if how I am now is how I want to be for the next 50 years, then there's nothing to do. But for me, there's just so much more possible. And although, as you said before, I can't necessarily give you the detail of where it's going to be in 5 years' time, although I will make plans. If I look backwards over the last 20 years of my journey so far, since encountering NLP, 20 odd years, it's so much better. I'm so much better, and everything about life is so much better. And you can call it NLP or hypnosis or timeline therapy, and use any words you like, but at the end of the day, I'm being me, and the skill set of becoming more me and learning the tools to become more me itself is a self-rewarding, as I said earlier, process. And I want more and more and more people to become aware. They're doing and saying and being all these things anyway, whether they're aware of it or not. But my guess is that similar for me, when I became aware of certain things, I wanted to change certain things. And then not only did I just want to change them, I had the tools. to be able to change them, because once you know, to whatever level you know it, you know, a practitioner has enough to be able to do it, even if they never take a master prac, because we give it all, it's open.
Yep.
And then obviously at master prac,
Yep.
we get a chance to really fine tune that process and give people the whole conversational linguistic ability to be able to, you know, easily and effortlessly move throughout any conversations at any levels and things like that, and to change things. But I know that I did exceptional work as just a practitioner, and it's not just a practitioner anyway. As a practitioner, I was able to do amazing things. As a master practitioner, I was able to do amazing things. As a trainer, I've been able to do amazing things. Actually, I'm saying that I've been able to do amazing things, and that these skills have given me a methodology to do that. And it brings me right back to what Richard Bandler said in the first place. And he said it so many times, and now looking back, it makes so much more sense than at first. He said NLP is an attitude and an orientation which leaves behind a trail of techniques for others to follow. So, and he said it, and he created NLP. So if it's an attitude and an orientation, then using all these skills on myself to make it so that my orientation is more in alignment with where I want to be, and to have the attitude that anything is possible. If you can do it, I can do it. It's not that special. We're not superhuman in any way. We're actually quite normal, but we're aware of skills which we were doing before, but we didn't know that we were even doing those things. And for me, that gives us an evolutionary advantage over ourselves. That's just my point of view on it, you know. So I agree. I would encourage anyone who wants to progress from where they are at the moment to take a little bit of time. I mean, you know, 7 days, it's not very much, is it, to kind of invest in yourself, really?
It's not.
You know, I've spent longer than that watching Netflix, you know, in the last year. I'm joking, but you know, some people have, you know. But it gives us that ability to go forward and do all the things that you want to do, and to be satisfied with our life where we are, you know, because where we are is where we are, and that's how I want it to be, is how it actually is.
Yeah.
It can always improve, but actually for where it is, you know, otherwise I'm not going to be satisfied, and I am satisfied. I'm satisfied because where I am is okay. I can get better, but it's not born out of I need to get away from this kind of attitude. It's kind of the opposite. It's how much more like this can I be over time, you know, and then how can I show other people so they have the confidence to go forwards themselves, independent of me.
Correct.
And spread that out into wherever they go.
Yeah, I say this to my student. I say the only difference between you and me is that I have learned the process. That's all. We know the process of removing certain unwanted behavior. We know the process. And I say that to my students, and I say that you are now in the midst of learning those processes. That's the only difference. And
that's it, isn't it? It's matter of fact. Yeah. You know, that's what it is. No secrets with the way we go through. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Terence, it's been an absolute pleasure to speak with you today. And let's get together in 5 years.
Yes, let's do that. Yes.
That'll be a very interesting
having all sorts of stuff. Thank you so much, Mark. Thank you for having me. Really, thank you. Really, as usual, I really enjoy our conversation as well. I mean, wow, you know, I can't tell you how much I gain just with this conversation. Really, I can't tell you how much, but you can know for certain that I'm going to put something from our conversation, something into action straight away.
And that goes both ways. Really... Yeah, no, absolutely. It goes both ways as well. I've learned stuff to go out there now and put into operation myself as well. And that's, for actually interesting, I know this is the end of our podcast, but isn't that one of those interesting things about it all, is that when we all get together and talk, that actually we all leave with new stuff, new perspectives, and new actions that we can take. And that's great.
Yes. That's really great. Yeah. Thank you so much, Mark. Thank you.
Thanks very much for your time, Terence. I really appreciate it, mate.
Thank you.